We are only speaking the actual fact. We are only speaking the actual facts. We are only speaking the actual facts. Speaking the actual facts, the actual facts.
We got to do soyons.
We are only speaking the actual facts, the actual facts, the actual facts, the actual facts.
We got to do soyons.
We are only speaking the actual facts, the actual facts, the actual facts, the actual facts.
We got to do soyons.
I would like to give thanks for those that don't know the criteria. Before we start, we definitely always give gratitude and appreciation and thanks to our ancestors, our descendants, our bloodline, our royal link to our descendancy that goes back to our heavenly deities that have incarnated over time on this planet to teach the Nagar Nadu, the black race, our people. And so we have to acknowledge them first and foremost and acknowledge the Father, His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z. York. We appreciate everything that he has done for his people here. We appreciate the outformation and the actual facts that have been given to us in such a way that it's the way they have been delivered in a series of books he's been writing again since 1967, and the amount of information that are in these books, it takes a long time to digest because it's filled with so much beautiful science as it relates to us as a people. It's liberating because it teaches you about yourself, your soul, your spirit, your mind, your akal, which is mind in our language, sabbatic. He has re-taught our culture, our original culture that was passed down to us that we have lost being in the wilderness of North America and in other countries and lands where we have forgotten who we are, who we truly are by blood. And with that acknowledgement is necessary. So here in the Actual Facts podcast today is episode 3, right? I hope you caught the first 2, the origins or the creation of man, the origin of man, the creation of the black race, the creation of the African race, the creation of the Asians, Dravidians, Indians, Aborigines. So we still have to touch on that on part 3, part 3 of those first 2 episodes. We have some inquiries about the Native American bloodline and how that ties in, how the Africans, the indigenous Africans of the Americas mix with the Native Americans. How does that relate to us and our people in 2025? How do we make those claims and acknowledgement, and what is necessary for us to continue to unify and march towards our liberation as we move into spiritually and mentally? And so we will have that. But today I wanted to address the spiritual abodes, because we had a lot of questions about this topic, and it's not something that the religious world actually goes into teaching thoroughly in such a way that it's comprehensible. It's often left and it's ambiguous when you begin to explain what is a spirit, what is a soul. I hope you all can hear me. The chat's on. If you can hear me, just send a kind greeting to let me know you all can hear me well in the chat. That's appreciated. So, okay, great. Thumbs up. I see it. So what is a soul? What is a spirit? You hear these terms a lot. A lot of times when people in communities, conscious communities, and certain lectures or builds, so to speak, you'll hear my frequency, my resonance. When I came in, I felt a certain energy, and we're not connecting. So these words are thrown around, and a lot of times people are just not aware of what they mean, and we just use them. And so the Father actually teaches us the etymological roots of specific words so you'll understand where they come from and how they relate to you factually, not just in a religious mythological term that most of the people of the past was not able to identify because they didn't have specific tools to measure what we call the spiritual abode now, or the world of the invisible. The world of the invisible would be uh, anything that prior to the creation or the invention of a microscope or a telescope, prior to those inventions, the invisible world was basically everything that you couldn't see with the without a tool, without a apparatus, without an instrument, anything with an electromagnetic spectrum. Rahobat, appreciate it. Share the room if y'all, not the room, the channel if you can. Appreciate you chiming in. So what happens is, like in the ancient times, they couldn't tell you about the spiritual world. They couldn't tell you about an atom. They couldn't tell you about bacteria or viruses, or they couldn't explain things that was not available for them to see because the technology was not as advanced. So a lot of mythologies occurred from what would typically today be a scientific explanation. In past times, people would create mythologies to explain. As the last discussion we saw, they had angels with wings because they didn't understand space or heaven. What they call space doesn't have any air. So they just assumed, because they didn't know, that, all right, let's just draw a picture of angels coming down, and they obviously they have to fly like birds, right? Because that's the lack of the tools of technology. Well, it's the same thing with the spiritual abode. The spiritual abode, because prior to, let's say, the 1900s, right, the apparatus to see atoms and to detect the atomic world was it was basically non-existent. So what you would see as the spiritual abode today is quite different from the spiritual abode as in the past. The spiritual abode in the past definition would be anything that's not physically tangible in this realm that you can see with your eyes. The spiritual abode today is being uncovered through instruments where they're using hydrogen colliders. They're looking at atomic microscopes, or let's say telescopes, to look at the deepest pockets of space. The same thing is happening with microscopes, where you can look at the deepest areas of the microscopic world and see the smallest amoebas or the single cells. Look at DNA and see how it unstrands and coils and how it multiplies. Genetic engineering. These are all things that was considered at one time, as the Father has taught us. At one time, it was in the invisible world, right? So now, as technology advances, you're allowed now to see things that was once invisible, or in the spiritual world, become tangible and real. So what is a spirit, and how now can we, at this point in time, address what the difference is between a spirit, what the difference is between a soul, frequencies, planes, and vibration. Okay, so first of all, when you address the term spirit, right, we typically look at the Bible. Most religious people, it's a sad thing what the religious world has done to the minds of our people, right? It has sedated the reasoning and our ability to research because of fear. Well, when you look at this spirit word, you first find it in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. And it's translated from the Strong's number 7307. When you deal with the word spirit, you're dealing with a word that was mistranslated, by the way. It was translated to spirit from the word ruach, which means wind or breath. And it's the Strong's number 7307. When you look at that word, you'll see that it, for some reason, a wind or breath blowing, or a movement, has been translated to spirit. The Quran does the same thing. In the Quran chapter 70 verse 4, it says, the angel and the spirit ascend. They translate this as ruach as well, which is breath, ruhu, or ruhu, which they say ruhu Allah. They say ruhu Allah was Isa, Jesus, right? Jesus was ruhu Allah, the soul of Allah. Yet they translate it as spirit in some places. For some reason, there's a confusion because now people are saying my soul and spirit. They use it interchangeably. It's not the same, and we'll learn that we'll learn what it is in Wu Sabat, as the Father has taught us in several publications. Spirit, soul, and other particular patarak that speaks about the spiritual world and how it relates to who you are as a sevenfold being. You're not just soul, spirit, body, right? You have several bodies that exist within your physical, right? Not solely within, but shares this physical being, and that ties into your what they call the seven chakras. You heard that before. You see the seat. People say you got to deal with the chakras, my brother. The seats of the upper, the mental, the lower seat, the carnal seat, the heart seat, etc. These are real phenomena, but they're not explained enough for us to really be able to regurgitate it and have the conversation. So we'll try to untangle the confusion in order for us to have a clarity. So the Muslims mistranslate ruhu as spirit, which is wrong because of the Hebrew and the Arabic. There are specific words for spirit. The word for spirit in Arabic is nefesh or nefs, right? Which means actually personality. It doesn't mean wind, right? Ruhu means to blow, a wind, the soul of a person, right? Which is different from your nefs or your nefesh in the Hebrew. The nefesh Hebrew is the same as nefs in the Arabic, which is spirit, personality. But the translators in the text mistranslated or translated intentionally wrong in some senses. And I'll show you in Leviticus 20, verse 25, you'll see the same word, right? Nefesh, which is spirit, translated as soul. And then you'll see the same word ruach, which is supposed to be translated as wind, is translated as spirit. And there's another word, Strong's number 178, which is ob, which is mistranslated as spirit as well. This is a different type of spirit, though. That word ob at 173, you'll see that in Leviticus 20:27. In Leviticus 20:27, they translate this word ob as spirit. However, it's not the same spirit as the personality. It's not the same spirit or soul as ruach, which is your soul, the wind. It's from a bottle, meaning a person that uses incantations, not incantations, divine incantations, but when you summon up a spirit. And when you see it in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 27, it says, a man also or woman that had a familiar spirit. So they use a specific word to denote a familiar spirit. They use another word to determine what a soul is, and a nefesh in the Hebrew, which is personality. That's the real it should be translated from nefesh. The word spirit should be translated in the Quran from nefs, but it's not. They use this. So for some reason the translators had whatever issues they had, mostly because it was orally passed down. They had a difficulty with keeping up with how they would translate a word, like the word nefesh, as we just spoke about, 53:15. In Genesis chapter 9, is translated as creature. All of this is going to make sense on why I'm taking you through this, so you'll understand that there's just literally a confusion throughout the religious world. Some people think spirits don't become physical. Some people think physical bodies can house spirits. But what is it exactly, and how does it keep you alive? But you don't find this in the Genesis text or the Old Testament. You'll find how this word, the translators were confused as well. This same word nefesh is translated as persons. So that's the second translation. One is creature. Another word in Genesis 14:21 is translated as persons. And then in 53:15, nefesh is translated, not 53:15, the same Hebrew Strong's number 53:15, nefesh is translated as mind. And that's in 23:8 of Genesis. Okay, so ruach is cool, is translated as cool of the day, which is ironic because when you read Genesis 3:8, when it says this Lord, right, was walking and talking in the cool of the day, the word ruach is there. It's translated as cool, which is a temperature, a detection of a degree of degrees, which is cool versus warm. You see the same word ruach in Strong's number 7307, translated as spirit in Genesis 6:3, and then it's also translated as breath. What are we getting at? Well, we're getting at the fact that the religious world is totally confused with this spirit thing. And this is why they, in one instance, says you have to get a Holy Spirit, right? Which simply means whole. It doesn't mean anything good. Spirits can be good or bad. It doesn't, there is no, it depends on who it's working for. Person can have a negative spirit that is actually benefiting the person that's using it, right? Because they tend to have a personality that's conniving, manipulative, deceptive, and it's helping them obtain a certain amount of money. Now, if they lose their soul in the end, that's different. But what I'm saying is spirits are not just classified because you think they come from your God, then all of a sudden they're good. Because you say, oh, this is holy. If this is a whole spirit, that means you have a complete spirit. It could be good or bad. It doesn't mean that it's something that's magnificent and it's for no. That's the spirit world is full of billions of spirit entities that are trapped on these lower abodes. And these lower abodes are your chakra seats, not as stacks of pancakes, but more so as a lower abodes of vibrational energies that can't ascend to the higher abodes, which the race of Africans, blacks, indigenous, melanated people are able to ascend to. And there's a reason why they, in the religious world, they implement fear, because fear is something that keeps you trapped on these lower abodes. Now, when you speak about these lower abodes, you have these seats, these chakra seats that are 7, and they tie into your endocrine system, right? Your endocrine system is a system of glands that is responsible for how you grow. They're responsible for your moods. They're responsible for your metabolism. They're responsible for dopamine and certain hormones that are triggering, stimulating hormones, and hormones that are responsible for secreting the dopamine and oxytocin that's in your brain that allows you to feel a certain way. Or it also responsible for your fight or flight mechanism that's coming from your adrenal glands, from the amygdala part of your brain. So your endocrine system lines up your pituitary gland, your pineal gland, your thymus, thalamus, your ovaries, they call them your gonads, which are your lower seat. Then you have your pancreas, which is a gland, and then your kidney glands, your adrenal glands that sits there, that's responsible for regulating certain systems in your body, urination, things of that nature. And so these glands that the old ancients knew about were your endocrine glands. They align themselves in a, let's say, symmetrical way with the other side of its physical matrix, right? The other side of its physical biological gland, there's a etheric counterpart. Everything in this physical mature world has an etheric counterpart. As they say, you hear as above, so below, right? When you look up, the same thing you see up, you see down. The same thing you see in is the same thing outward. Things that's happening on the inside of the body is happening within the universe. That's overstood. The same thing what happens in a woman's womb, where a baby is born in space in total darkness, in the primordial waters of existence as a microscopic entity, a tadpole within the womb. The same thing happens in the universal cosmological field, in the space where things are born in this primordial soup. It's called, scientists, or let's say physicists, call it dark matter. And they say, well, it's an invisible matter that we can't detect. It exists on the other side of hydrogen. It exists, it's so undetectable, but it has force and it controls. And the reason why they know that this etheric counterpart or etheric other side of the physical world is because light has a specific speed that it can't depart from, 186,272 feet per second, right? Which means that light is controlled. Well, what is it controlled by? How is light able to maintain that particular speed, right, at that rate without alteration, without because if it was nothing, it was uncontrollable, light would travel as fast as it could, any direction, without any physical or laws, universal laws that keeps it in due bounds. That means that darkness, in this dark matter, dark space, there's a controlling element that human beings haven't been able to detect because of their lack of technology. There's higher beings that are able to what do you call it, detect this matter and understand this matter. This exotic matter is called. What's the same magic matter that grows a baby in the womb, the same magic matter that grows planets in space. There's a force there that you can't comprehend. Yet space does not alter, or the planets do not alter the laws that are set up by this etheric energy. The sun, the moon, the earth does not alter its revolutionary cycles around these particular bodies. They have a specific speed that they don't alternate. They have a specific axis that they spin on, unless some external force alters it, which happened to Earth several times in the past. It was destroyed several times, and the asteroid belt came from it. But outside of external forces, the universe and the planets, they have a specific cycle and existence that's governed by intelligent matter that exists, that's undetectable by human beings. So you have to understand that on the other side of hydrogen, down to the smallest particle, which they're now able to split atoms and get into quarks and zeals and quadrons and hydrons, when you get into quantum physics, which is the area of study that speaks about nanoparticles and how they convert from energy to matter, and how to detect the energy transferring to matter. So that's a field of existence that you should know about, or at least you will learn here on the Actual Facts podcast, because it relates to you, because you are atoms. But not only are you atoms, your molecules, your compounds, you make up your makeup of vibrational energy controls or determines your density, right? So what I mean by vibrational energy, it means that vibrational energy is, for instance, if you have ice, let's give that a classic example. It's the most fundamental example. If you have ice and ice is solid, if you speed up its vibration, then it becomes water. If you speed it up through heat, thermonuclear action, which creates friction that causes the molecules of the water to speed up, moves very fast, and then one or two, they begin to escape. This is steam. That's a form of vibrational energy of a particular material or substance that changes based on its vibration. So you can change your physical makeup by vibration. Vibration is also sound. Sound are words, or creates words. You can't have, pardon me, let me say this. Sounds create tones. Tones create words. So whatever the word is that you speak comes from sound, comes from light, which comes from the immaterial world, or the other side of hydrogen, which is your spiritual abode. So your spiritual abode is a very real existence, and its effects upon you has a lot to do with your frequency, on how your energy level is, how your vibration is, as far as your endocrine system and the stress factors that affect your life. Now, what the ancients knew is that in order to control the person, spirit beings, in order to control your spirit, how they control your spirit, right, is this. If I can keep you in a state of fear, then I keep you in a state of fight or flight. Now, when you look at the when you look at the amygdala part of the brain, which is, let's say, it's a small area of your brain that's responsible for how you respond to very dangerous situations, how you respond to threats, how you respond to the thought of not surviving. And that happens with religion every day. The religious world is consumed by fear of a specific God, whether it's Allah, whether it's Jehovah, whether it's Jesus, whether it's whoever it is, right? The God of religion implements fear in such a way that all his subjects, if you are a part of these specific doctrines, all of his subjects live in a state of stress. And this state of stress keeps you in a you have anxiety in most of your everyday activities because you're involved with trying to please a being that you haven't confirmed existed, first of all. So you're trying to make sure you do and live a specific way, or do a specific task, or prevent specific actions, or even alter your own nature in order to please this being, because you are afraid you will be burnt up in Judgment Day, an unconfirmed date of court where you come in front of the judge. Only God can judge me, right? That he can make your life happy or sad. So that type of stress and anxiety keeps your vibrations very low, in a low state, where your countenance falls, because the things you attempt to do or like to do are things that most of the time people say it's negative, it's bad, God doesn't like this, the book says this, are you under the law, do you follow the scriptures, do you follow the Torah? None of them follow the Torah. The Torah's books, the 613 commandments, none of the religious world follows those books. They don't follow the sacraments, they don't follow the Sabbath, they act as if they do, to pretend to play a righteous role in your life in order to say, I'm closer to God, to control your spirit, to say, if I'm closer to God, listen to me. And a lot of times, in order to control you, they give these sermons that God doesn't like this, the Lord said this, if you want to go against that, that's on you. Guilty. They want to create guilt within your spirit. They want to create shame within your spirit. And this keeps you on a lower vibration. And beings of 6 ether, negative forces, need you at this level. There's 7 planes. The 4th actually is the highest. And we'll get into that, which is the mental. Everything else correlates with the lower planes, but the 4th plane is your mental plane, right? And that's where heaven, the state of heaven, and you reach these beings who are intelligent beings who haven't materialized in the physical. They don't need the physical to express themselves any longer. It's no need. You still need it. That's why you're now physical. You have to express yourself in a more dense state. These beings don't. They live in a higher abodes. But the lower abode beings, these beings that at this cycle are going out, want you at a place of fear and anxiety, so that they can walk into and get into you, because your mood, and possess you, because you've opened yourself up to these lower abodes. And you become addicted to this fear. This is why people like scary movies, even though they know the actors, the actresses are not real. They're real actors and actresses, but their roles are not real. They know the actors and actresses are playing a role, right? They know that the movie is scripted, but they still go to enjoy fear. It gives a certain amount of rush, right? Adrenaline rush that people become addicted to. It's called trauma bonding. This is literally a phenomenon in psychology. When you trauma bond, you become addicted to the exchange of dopamines and oxytocin and serotonin that's secreted through your hormones in an interaction. Same thing happens with your God. So you feel pleased when you give the things that he says he needs, right? This is all created in your mind through religious doctrine. When you go to church, they say give $5. The Lord appreciates it. He'll bless you. So you feel better about so this is all an emotional contract you have created with these spirit forces, and they keep you in a state of fear. And fear was introduced in the garden, according to the story. When you see that it says, and the Lord, right, called out to Adam, where are you? And he said, I hid because I was afraid. Not that I loved you, not that I was appreciative of you, and I realized I did something wrong, and I wanted to come to you and say, listen, I did. No, there was fear placed. So man now is in a perpetual state of fear about the gods of religion. And that's what has keep people in such a depressed state. That's why there's so much fight negativity, so many arguments, so many fights, so much death and killing, because they are able to possess your being, because you're constantly in a state of fear and ready to fight or flight, right? Or some people freeze out of fear. And when you freeze out of fear, you just accept your fate. And that's what people are avoiding in religious doctrine. They're afraid that this God will do something. So you live your whole life in this state of anxiety. So you always exist on these lower abodes. On these lower abodes, other moods are created. Greed. People that are greedy. People that are very highly lustful. Right? This is a physical abode. It's all physical actions. It's carried out by your lowest desires, right? Your addictions. So the reason why that they keep you in that fear is because the Adamite knows that now that he has you afraid, he can control your soul, because you can't ascend to connect to your own ancestors, to connect to your own deities, because you're constantly worried. Will he take my job? I can't eat. He's responsible for your birth. You take your child to the hospital, he's responsible for the birth certificate. You take someone dies in your life or transitions, he's responsible for your death certificate. You want to drive to go to work, you have to get permission to get your driver's license. You want to become a doctor or a nurse, you have to get licensed in the medical institution. Anything that's in reference to your livelihood, to survive, to eat, you have to go to his grocery stores. Therefore, you're under the control of him and what he wants from you. This is a perpetual state of fear and controlling. So these lower abodes is where most people exist on, and they can't come out of it. How do you come out of it? Well, let's address these abodes in detail real fast. So when you deal with the physical, the spiritual abode, right here, the 1 through 7, we talked about the where you are. Let's go here. We talked about the particular different frequencies. Now, each abode, spiritual abode, your chakra seat has a different color. One is red, one is orange, one is yellow, green, blue, indigo, blue and violet. I don't know if you remember Roy G. Biv. Red, indigo, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So it starts from the bottom seat to the top. Red, orange, yellow, right, blue, green. Green is the mental abode. Even though they say it's here, it's actually here, right? Because your mind and your heart is connected as one. That mental abode raises you up to higher abodes, which are not as dense. So let's go through them briefly. I want to talk about the mental abode. The material abode. The first abode is the material abode. The material abode is subject to time, rules of movement. Only on this abode is there a then, when, how. There's calculations on this physical abode. Where you go, it has time, it has space, it has temperature, it has locations. It's basic everything within the material abode. This is the first abode of also specters and ghosts and ghouls and demons that exist on this abode, the material abode. They only can get through your body through that, most of the time through blood or through alcohol or drugs, when you allow yourself to open up to those lower abodes. And you know this happens because a lot of incidents happen when a person is intoxicated. When you're intoxicated and you say, for instance, a person sometimes leaves a club, leaves a party, they're drunk, intoxicated, they get in a car, there's beings that are waiting for you to lower your continent in the spiritual realm. They possess your body. Some of them are waiting around in limbo to carry out acts of the physical material world that they miss. So they could miss driving, some miss having sex, some miss killing. And it happens, a being will possess your body. You'll get in a car, you drive erratic, You kill, hit a drunk driver, hit 2 people, go home, get in bed, wake up with the cops knocking on your door saying that you killed 2 people. And you don't know how it happened. You don't know what happened. All you know is those beings that just possessed you are now have you sentenced to life in prison for vehicular homicide. Or there's other instances where you are protected by your ancestors, and guess what? They take your body and protect you, drive you home safely. So it just depends. But the lower abodes are where mostly these ghouls, demons, specters live. Now, what happens is lost spirits exist there, demons exist there, trapped spirits, and they can walk inside of you. And this is all coming from the actual facts written by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z, Emotional Energy. I'll take from different notes as it relates to the spirit. So this is that lower abode. Now, the second abode, which is the ether abode, right? This is the etheric abode, is where things take shape. The physical world, this is the blueprint of the physical world. This is where your involuntary functions are controlled. Your heartbeat, you don't control your heartbeat. You don't control your digestive system. Now, you cannot eat, but you don't control the process of how digestion works. You don't control blinking. You cannot blink for some time, but eventually you'll be full. You don't control breathing. You can try to stop breathing, but you can't really smother yourself. That's almost impossible for a person to die from suffocation. You know, so breath is a continuing inhaling and exhaling, almost it's such a powerful involuntary function that you can't keep your mouth closed or your nose closed for a minute or two without your body forcing you to release, right? So that's that involuntary action is controlled within the etheric abode, where these energies sustain the life force in you, the life force that keeps you alive, the spark of, so they say, cellular respiration. What happens when your body exhales, your cells eliminate toxic materials that is used through the process of digestion through the mitochondria, the waste materials that the body or the blood picks up from the cell to take it to the lungs, that exhales carbon dioxide, which is waste. That's what it literally, if you look at the substance of carbon dioxide that comes from your breath, is waste. It's wasteful material, and fat and other things. People lose weight not from sweat. You lose weight from actually breathing. You may not know that about your body. It's a phenomenal piece of machinery. When you breathe out, that's when you're releasing fat, burning. You burn fat. When you burn something, it becomes combustible, which is burning off a gas. That gas is mixed in with the carbon that you're breathing out. So you're breathing out fat molecules. What that is an involuntary action. I'm saying that you don't control that. I'm just giving you your involuntary systems that you do not control. That this particular abode, this ether abode, is responsible for. And there are intelligent beings, your ancestors, that exist in an etheric world that watch over this material creation. And they charge your body, right? They give you etheric energy through these seats, these glands, endocrine glands, that attach to pockets. They're like pockets. Look at it as like a light socket and a plug, right? The gland would be the cord, right, that plugs into a specific socket, that the etheric world feeds the physical body through these glands, that allows you to exist, which gives you your aura. People say, I have my aura. They have this new slang. They say his aura is strong, or her aura is strong. It's because of the endocrine systems lining up with your chakra seats from the etheric world that you pull from in order to charge your body. And this is the access you have to this abode, this spiritual abode, that you have to access in order to ascend, even in the afterlife. the religious world won't teach you this because they don't want you, they obviously don't know it, so because they don't know the language themselves. Preachers or reverends, imams, they don't actually speak these specific languages, and if they did, they couldn't give you the original translation because they don't have the original books. So this is ancient knowledge taught to us by our Father in this the spiritual science of Wu Sabat. And these seats that you know as chakras, this etheric, these beings, right, created this matrix for your race because your DNA, your genetics are different from every other race. This is why you have a soul. The soul is the emotional body of you that is able to travel and ascend, right, which is timeless. Your spirit is not timeless. Your spirit is your personality. You actually have two spirits, and we'll get into that. One of your spirit beings is your personality. That's you, the one that you are created from, that you pick up as you grow through life. The personal part of you that gives you your personal personality, your personal being, your impressionable charisma, your characteristics. This is from your spirit. But all of that ties in. It ties in like a intricately interlaced network of etheric accords that interlace each other to create the fabric that the physical body can mesh on, can become one and form the physical body in the womb. It's the same thing. You have a spirit in the womb. It's just that the magnetic attraction from the cells that your mother takes in hasn't merged and connected to the spiritual form of the body yet. So that takes time because she has to what? Attract the flesh that's actually in the air. This is, scientists will tell, I don't know if they tell you, but when a woman gets pregnant and when she forms the baby, she's forming it from ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Because the Father taught us a long time ago in class, he said within the atmosphere, you not only have rubber, you not only have, let's say, dirt, material, you have flesh as well. And the body is able to, through cilia in the nose, differentiate between what's useful and what's not useful. And the body actually uses the flesh that's in the air to form the body of the baby within the womb. That's another topic. My point is that attraction is the blueprint. The physical body is attracted by magnetic etheric energy from your spirit, and it grows you. You are attached to your spirit. You are attached to your soul physically through magnetism. That's what atoms are. North-south attractions. When you look at a magnet, you look at this planet, all of it is magnetism and electricity. So it's an attraction there that your physical body is meshed up against, lack of a better word. Like in other words, if you materialize, say for instance, prime example, when you see a certain movie and you see a being that incarnates and then all of a sudden it begins to materialize, they show this etheric crystallization that takes place where the body becomes solid and then all of a sudden it fades out. Well, that's the materialization of these of the atoms in the material world densifying or slowing up in vibration to become more solid, so you will be able to see it with your physical eyes. You can't see things outside of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? Which is again your colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Anything outside of that you can't detect. It doesn't mean it's not there. Gamma rays exist, microwaves exist, radio waves exist. You can't detect it because you're limited as a human being. So the existences that Wu Sabat teaches you about is the existences of these worlds that are outside your perception of hearing, tasting, feeling, and touching. But they do exist. You know microwaves exist. You don't feel them, you don't touch them, but you see when you put food in a microwave, you touch 1 minute, it cooks. That's an invisible effect. Gamma rays, radio waves exist. This cell phone, you know these things exist because why? You're actually viewing me from an invisible force that's picked up by certain instruments that men have created in order to detect these specific energies. Well, the etheric world is no different. It exists in a way where you're not able to detect it because of its divine qualities. However, the physical world attaches itself to the matrix of this etheric world, and this is how human beings manifest. This is all controlled by etheric beings that exist on the other side, what you call the other side. They exist all around, but because you can't see it, you don't think they exist. Most human beings are under the impression that if they don't see it, then it doesn't exist. The same thing, they think that time moves forward. Humans are under the impression that time moves forward. Why? Because your eyes are in the front of your head. So you look forward. That means everything is happening forward. No, time is all around you. So there's areas of existence that you have to, within the Actual Facts podcast, we'll try to deliver these principles the way that the Father gave them to us over the years, so that you'll be able to, let's say, upgrade or transform your mentality, so you eliminate and free yourself from the lower abodes and exist in the higher abode, the mental abodes, where you should be at right now. You don't exist in the mental abode yet. You do think, right? You do pull thoughts, but there's a connection that needs to be made between you and the mental abode, so your ancestors will be able to pull you up, where you'll be able to ascend. But you can't do it because you don't have the connection. There's a connection that takes place even when you pick up radio waves. You have to tune in the knob to get in that certain frequency. You want to say 97.8. You go, you hear white noise, right? Till you get to it, and then it clicks. Why? Because you tuned in on the right station. The reason why the religious world doesn't get answers to these gods, because you're not on their station. Africans, you have a totally different station and tone that you must speak to, right? That you must connect with in order for them to connect and get on the right station, so you can get your messages. What messages? Your prayers being answered, the guidance that you're looking for.
We are only speaking the actual
Thanks for joining the Actual Facts podcast. If you enjoyed these lectures, please feel free to check out previously recorded episodes. Just click the link in the window, and please don't forget to subscribe, share, and like.
With Dr. Deuce, York.
We are only speaking the actual facts, the actual facts, the actual facts, the actual